these are things that I would like to do. I'm actually feeling really excited to get back into Project Ash. It's just been a while really since I've got into just being able to sit and just properly write. I've done a lot of planning in between editing Project Red, and I've sort of built up a bit more of an understanding kind of what I want this sort of first draft to be like, kind of where I want certain storylines to go. I feel like there's still some bits that I don't know yet, but because I am very much kind of like a plant-set, I am someone who has to discovery write and find out, more about my story as I write it. However, I feel like having had this time to sort of do through like editing Project Red, I've been able to think a bit more about Project Ash, if that makes sense, and go, okay, these are like elements that I loved from the first one, this is what I want to take and then move into this next book. These are the ideas that I want to expand upon and stuff like that. And I've just been able to kind of develop a bit more of a kind of, it's not like a strict plan, it's more like these are things that I would like to do in this novel, let's get to them at some point. I feel like with this novel, because compared to Project Red, which is obviously the first book, this one the story isn't quite so, there's more storylines to play with, if this makes sense. The characters are sort of separated a bit, so there's more going on and different kind of layers to the story, whereas the first one was very much like, we're all here together, we're all going, you're learning about them all as a group, whereas this time they've all got their own different storylines to play with. And for some reason I was finding that quite hard to work with at first. I was like, how do I kind of go back to doing all these multiple storylines, even though like the first novels that I wrote, which were I self-published, these were all this kind of separate storylines, multiple characters doing their own thing kind of stories. Whereas like, because I've sort of not done that for a while and not done it to feel like I am a better writer now than when I wrote those novels back when I was a teenager. So now it's a bit more like, okay, how do I make sure everything makes sense? How do I make it sure that the chapters flow into each other still, and that everybody's getting their own chance to shine, and but also the story's progressing at a nice pace and not just being too much of, this is what I'm doing here and this is what I'm doing here. And I feel like I was getting a bit kind of too into my head about what I have to do for each of these storylines and how I'm going to create these, when really this is draft one. this is literally the first draft. I just need to get it written and get it done. I don't need to worry so much about pacing and whether or not everything flows smoothly into each other just yet, because I've got plenty more rounds of edits and drafts to come before this needs to be anywhere near perfect. feel like it's been a while since I've been able to like truly dedicate time to Project Ash. Editing for Project Red took up more of me than I thought. I thought I would be able to kind of do both at the same time and do like the edits in the morning, for example, and then, you know, write in the afternoon, that kind of thing. But actually, editing takes up just so much energy, and it's so much focus going into reading through what the editor has have put and seeing the changes they suggest, and then implementing them or going, okay, I get what you mean here, but I think if we could just do it here instead. It's one of those things where it's so different once you get to the stage where someone else is critiquing and also just pointing out things in your novel that you as the writer just kind of hadn't noticed because you've done it so many times. Like, for example, oh, this description, you've also put it here because you've like obviously one time you've copied and pasted it into a different bit. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I hadn't noticed that we've done the same thing here. Or there's frequently used phrases which you're like, oh, I hadn't realised I used that quite so much. So it's really interesting to see that when you get your work back from an editor and to see what that, I don't know, it's been less kind of, I was worried that like when it gets to editing and stuff, you know, the critique will kind of like hurt my heart. So if you know what I mean, like it's like, this book is my baby and then someone's going to tell me it's all rubbish or something like that. And that's just not the case. I feel like what it's been like is each time I get edits back, because I've had a few rounds of edits now, it's like, instead of feeling like, oh, this is rubbish, what have I done? It's just felt like, okay, these are just little steps that I can take to make it better. And each time I'm seeing the improvement and seeing it grow. And I think that's just, it's incredible to see and to do. However, it's made me a bit more, not critical, but sort of, because I've been working at such a kind of high level for Project Red, in the sense that it's at, you know, so gone through quite a few rounds of edits now, compared to obviously this is the first draft for Project Ash. So I need to go back into that mentality of, it's the first draft, I only need to get it written, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know what, today's actually been a really good sort of just getting back into Project Ash vlog. I did share in my last vlog, which was like the kind of quiet, silent style of writing vlog, that I have kind of started this first draft, if that makes sense. I kind of wrote the first kind of 7 chapters-ish, and then I was caught up with editing Project Red, and then I've now kind of come back to it. And so what I've managed to do today is kind of go through, well, over the last 2 days actually, but go through kind of all that I wrote before, reread it, see if it's still what I like. Some stuff I'm changed bits around. I can't go into loads of detail about what I did, but like I changed quite a bit around and changed up the first few chapters quite a bit, and I was actually quite happy. I was surprisingly happy with how what I wrote before came out. And when I was reading it back, I was like, oh, actually, this isn't as dreadful as I thought it was. But I kind of just went back through, changed some bits up, and I've just sort of worked out a bit more about how I'm going to work these multiple different storylines and how I'm going to get these to all flow together nicely. Obviously, like I said earlier, I really don't need to overthink this just yet. This is just the first draft. I just need to get it down and sorted. And if this book is anything like Project Red turned out to be, it's going to be draft 2 that's going to be harder. So at the moment, I just need to have fun and just get it down. And because there's a long way left to go.